Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm just doing a quick video tonight about a announcement I'd like to make. And I thought carefully about this, and this is something that has happened through a certain amount of time. I'm not making this decision lightly necessarily. Now, I will say that I have been following this person for a long time. Used to be on a show called Reign of Fire with Mike Papantonio and some other people. And this person has been a controversial figure, and to say the least. And there's been times where I disagree with him on certain things, including what he's more infamous for. To a small extent, moderately, I do. Or not a small extent. I should say I'm more in the middle about that subject, probably, overall. I'm just going to say the V word, and it's not vagina. I'm in that. I'm not in the middle about that. Well, it's in the middle, but anyway. So, I used to listen to him on the show, and just, one of the things is he has, vocal issues and stuff from this condition he has. You probably guess who I'm, you probably saw the title, you know who I'm talking about. But, and it was kind of, sometimes it was hard to listen to at times, but he would be on the show and he was just like spouting fact after fact, usually about environmental stuff. Like, the guy knows his shit. He's sharp, very sharp. Now, of course, I'm talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if you haven't guessed by now. And I am going to announce that I am endorsing him for President of the United States. Now, I've done endorsements before that have got very disappointed, and I don't really expect much from this necessarily. I wonder what James Corbett would have to say, or someone like that about RFK. Now, he probably, might think he's part of, he might expose something about him being some part of some type of thing, and that's probably true. I don't get the gist that he is being insincere or dishonest. Now, there was controversy with his wife hosting some kind of party where there was some type of requirement, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know what happened with that. He wasn't at this party. It was just some kind of weird thing that she did. Obviously, it's kind of strange. It seems like a trophy wife situation, to be quite honest, which is sad, of course, but at least it's not like Epstein Island situation. You know what I mean? I mean, sad because not sad because of age difference or anything like that. My opinion about that. But so I'm going to endorse him because I feel like he is just a fist up the ass, a spiked fist up the ass of the establishment at this point in time. Now, he is part of the establishment because he's a Kennedy. They've been part of the establishment. There's a crooked history with them, just like any political and financial, well, not financial, business dynasty, whatever. So there's all obviously bad things that are in their history. Now, he is, he was very much a Democrat for a long time. And he still is. He's running as a Democrat. So he endorsed. I was reading about him. Like, endorsed Obama on this election. Blah blah blah. I don't like that stuff. Obviously, it's just like hearing about Rand Paul like going to some kind of Lindsey Graham fundraiser or something, or celebrating a celebration of Ronald Reagan or George W. Bush or something. It's like, yeah. But that said, I was raised with that kind of thing, so I understand where that's coming from. Probably it's more alien to me to be Republican because of my history, so I can see where that came from. Obviously, he's in this family that was Democrat all along, and I'm not endorsing that. I'm just saying that this is kind of what I'm saying with this. Now, the main reason why I am endorsing RFK Jr. is actually not because of all the CV-19 stuff that he's been for or against or whatever. Because there is a lot that, obviously, if you know how I think about a lot of that stuff, or at least how I suspect things went, which I do not like how things went. And, I have an open mind to acknowledging maybe the other side. It's fine. I understand why you did what you did, or you believed what you believed, and maybe I'm wrong. I'll acknowledge that. Now, that said, he obviously wrote a book about it called The Real Italian Hero, Super Mario, Fauci. No, the real Anthony Fauci. So he wrote a book, and I bought it. I haven't read it yet, but I definitely will now. So he has been an environmental lawyer for many years. So, like, when he was on Rain and Fire, he would just spout all these facts and say all this stuff about this corruption. It was just like, wow, the guy is, he is sharp as a tack. His brain, memory, just the stuff he would rattle off. It was pretty nuts. I mean, and people used to like him in the Democrat Party. Sam Senior, who's infamously now just a total cringe. I'll call them cringe libs, instead of shit lib. But people like that. It's just like, what happened? Why were you so friendly with this guy, who's actually been saying a lot of the same? I didn't know this is a question that I had. How long has he been talking about the V word, which I don't care about as much now that we can actually, have a choice. But it's at least in that area. And I have some mixed feelings about some of the other ones too. I'm like, well, that's a little bit, it's a little flimsy evidence, correlation, causation, some of the studies and stuff. I'm just saying, sometimes I'm not sure. I'm agnostic about it. I'll just be honest. So, especially about autism and all that, I'm not sure. Just don't know. And he's been pushing that, but if oh wow, you don't want mercury in your medical intervention or your VAX. Wow, that's so edgy and Trumpian, and I mean, that's basically what he was pushing for. I mean, stuff like that, just little things like that. There's certain substances they put in there that, they can do an alternative to that. Well, that's so bad, Talks about big pharma and stuff. And, that is one of the things that appeals to me, is he actually does at least attempt to put a veneer of science and research into it, which is very convincing. I'll just say that. I don't agree with everything he says, but the major thing that he is campaigning against is CBDC, the central bank digital currency. Now, I liked DeSantis for that, and for several other things that he did. DeSantis is against freedom of speech. He just passed this law about some kind of protest law in Florida, and a lot of right-wingers are talking about it too. And just some of these things that he's doing is just, and the Guantanamo connections, it's like, I can't trust the guy. And I never did, even when I was more of a liberal back, 4 years ago, when I first saw this commercial DeSantis did where it was just like, it was something's weird about the guy. And I do like a lot of what he does. I would take him over a lot of people, but I do not trust the guy. And Rfk Jr., there's nothing to really trust about him. He has such his voice is so messed up. It's like, he's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain how I feel about this. He has a disability is what I'm trying to say. And it's like, I'm not saying you trust a person automatically because of that, but there's like a vulnerability, fuck, I can't talk tonight, about him. There's a compassion that you can sense from his words. Now, he's part of the establishment, but he's kind of the black sheep, I think, I wouldn't say black sheep of the Kennedy family, but sort of ish. I mean, he's talked about at lengths about the conspiracy stuff, and he believes it. And not all the Kennedys talk about that, about their own family. Like, yeah, I don't, there's, they're a little mum about it. He's just talking about it all the time on podcasts and stuff. Yeah, yeah, the CIA, blah, blah, blah. So, and he praised his daughter for being well, this is where it gets a little weird. So I think I don't know if it's a niece or a daughter. One of his relatives was in the CIA for a while or something. I'm like, yeah, that's a little weird. And he was kind of praised. He's like, there's a lot of good people in the CIA or something. There was something like that. Okay, well, that was a little messed up. But then he also wants to scale back the CIA. I don't know. It's a little weird. That was just the other day or something like that. It was a little sus, as the kids like to say. So, but as even a symbolic gesture, voting for the guy, even in this way, just to stick it to the bullshit that we're living with now. He's also kind of anti-woke too, which is kind of cool. I know that's very political. He's trying to court like this right-wing conspiracy libertarian / somewhat leftist base. But where the hell do I fit? I don't know. I fit in the libertarian sort of leftish conspiracy thing myself. Why would I not vote for the guy? I mean, I would, I like some of Marianne Williamson's stuff too. I think they would be a dream team, the two, honestly. But they would just, I mean, yeah. I think they would be great together. But I don't like her as much as Rfk Jr. obviously because of stated obvious reasons. But the CBDC thing's just like, that's the most important thing for me, even beyond anything about the CV1984 thing. I mean, all that stuff was creepy as hell and weird. What they were doing in the government, the Fourth Amendment. He talks about this too, like in some of his speeches. It's like, but there's nothing on the scale to me than the CBDC stuff. It's not even on the same scale. There's no excuse. There's no veneer of doing it for the public's health or anything like that. Because at least you could say, well, maybe they're just being a little too careful, or, I mean, you could give them the benefit of the doubt at least a little bit. Some people, I mean, I'm talking about more people than politicians. Like, they're just naive and stuff. But with this stuff, and I don't know, all the time, I do have differing things in my head about all the stuff too. But I don't care, because that's obviously the emergency declaration is done tomorrow, and worldwide wanted to. So who cares about that anymore? I'm not going to forget about it, but you know what I mean. But so yeah, I like a lot of what Rfk Jr. has to say. He's in the military stuff. I mean, come on, military industrial complex, all that stuff. And the only thing that I've heard is that stuff with his wife and his relative that was in the CIA. And I don't know what I think, and some of his Democrat kind of weird stuff in the past, I'm not going to say he's controlled opposition or something like that. I think he's legitimately, like, some people just kind of operate on this level. And you can't always call people controlled opposition, blah, blah, blah. They're not aware of the bubble that they're in. He's in a certain bubble. But he's kind of out of it too. It's a weird dichotomy between those two things, but it's like this weird thing that he's in with regards to that, and that's the way it goes. But that means, in a way, it's kind of like why people voted for Trump, is because, like, he's part of the system, but he's kind of not. So that's kind of why people liked Trump. I know that's the fact. Some people would say he's a deep state, plan or whatever, and maybe, some of his cabinet choices were definitely pretty bad. That's a problem. That's one of the major reasons why I don't think he's legitimately anti-establishment. I don't think he's like a deep state plant or Hillary plant or whatever. But yeah, Rfk Jr., as far as what he stands for, as far as what he talks about, as far as what he's against and what he's for the most part, even though if he had this relative that he's like kind of half giving compliments for her service. It's a Kennedy family, they're going to have some weird establishment shit, right? I'm not excusing it necessarily, but that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think he's like a plant or anything. He's been doing this stuff. who knows? I mean, maybe people consider him that who are funding him. I don't know. I heard some rumor about Bannon, something rather. I don't know. But Bannon will fund anything that fund anything from a distance that he thinks will serve his agenda, no matter what it is. So I don't know. I hear all these rumors. You can't trust anybody. I don't trust Rfk Jr., but I like him. I like what he stands for, and I'm going to campaign for him because I think he's good. That's my vote. He'll disappoint, but probably not in the same way because he probably won't get up there anyways. But it's like 20% of the Democratic vote. I would actually in shock, like in polls and stuff. It's crazy. But it's people like me, that grew up in this liberal thing, this left-wing thing, and we're like just aghast at what has happened. The last at least 5 or 6 years with all the just crazier stuff that's been happening. Just the contradictions, like we love corporations, we love big pharma, we love the military-industrial complex. Whoa. No, that's not what you're supposed to be about, dude. And the Republicans being against it somewhat now. But Rfk Jr. fills that niche. He has some of that compassionate liberalism, that was from the old school. And he has the new school of being anti-establishment, at least, even though he's part of the establishment. I don't know, he's sort of part of it. He's kind of been kicked out of a lot of stuff lately because of his opinions, but, and he's on some weird watch lists and stuff now, like campaign against hate or something. It's like, what the heck? People are crazy. But yeah, that's an indication that maybe he's doing something right. I don't know. But he is my choice for president. I think he would be a sharp bulwark against a lot of the tyranny that's going on, and also is not a complete psycho, or it doesn't placate a bunch of psycho Christian nationalist maniacs either. Like Trump sort of kind of plays around with that demographic, because it's part of his demographic. And I'm not saying that Trump is one of those people, but he gives a little bit too much power for me to ever vote for him. Same with DeSantis. DeSantis is worse though, because Trump is wants peace, in Ukraine. I believe that he would actually. This is one thing about Trump that I do think is true. If he gets his name on it, he's going to try to get a peace deal pronto, preventing World War III, and he's going to take credit for himself and blah blah blah. But RFK is probably the same way. So I will be voting and supporting him. That's about all.